This is Monty in the Morning, the show Phoenix Magazine readers voted #1 talk radio show in Arizona.
#1 during your morning commute.
#1 whenever news breaks during your day.
And #1 whenever and wherever you want to talk sports.
Now it's time for Monty in the Morning.
Hey, yo, man. Happy May the 2nd be with you on the Monty Show. Hey, have you looked at our affiliate links yet? You haven't? Why haven't you looked at our affiliate links? The best t-shirt, the best Dots pretzel snack flavor ever. We have a ton of stuff in our affiliate links right now. They are below in the description on this YouTube channel and on our podcast. Wherever you may be, you can always find The Monty Show. Just find us on Google by searching The Monty Show. Appreciate you being here. Hey, make sure you hit subscribe because, you know that we are giving away a PlayStation 5 when we get to 5,000, and we are just 7 away from 4,000, 49.93. So we are rocketing up the subscriber ladder. But we got a lot to get to today. We got to update you on the Trevor Bauer situation. There's no winner in this Trevor Bauer suspension, I'm telling you right now. We've talked a lot about that situation. The suspension that MLB handed down is unbelievable. It is unbelievable. We'll talk about that. I want to ask you this as well. Should your wife or husband have access to your cell phone? A woman filed for divorce based on what she found on her husband's cell phone. Telling you, man, you go looking for a problem,
You're going to have a problem.
you're probably going to find one. You're probably going to find one. Trust me, it's not, it'll be interesting to hear your thoughts on that. Went to Little Moab this weekend. We'll update you on that. Make sure you check out our Jeep Wrangler JL vlog that is on the channel right now on YouTube. Had a lot of fun. Rock crawling. The Jeep's going to completely change this week. Huge week for the Jeep build that you can follow. We have a playlist just for the Jeep Wrangler build that we're doing. Check it out. Brand new video is there. But without further ado, let's talk about the Utah Jazz because there is a lot going on in Jazzland. And obviously with the season coming to an end, a disappointing season, a disappointing ending, there's a lot of silliness. There's a lot of ridiculousness floating around the rumor sphere, if you will, about what changes are going to be made. And before we get into what we've heard this week about Quin Snyder's situation, we got a lot of information on Rudy Gobert's exit interview for you. I want to play this bite by Justin Zanik, the general manager of the Utah Jazz, because I think it's incredibly interesting to listen to Justin Zanik talking about this team and really saying nothing at all.
Get into a lot of that stuff in the offseason. I think, Quinn said it before in previous years too, where I think there's an assumption that because we've had some of the same core players that the team is always the same or the seasons are always the same. So, you did this in this year, so why couldn't you do it this year later? Look, every team is different and every season is different. There's different trials and things that you go through. And, we'll try to figure out where we can use the great resources of our ownership group and the support of our fans and organization to address that. Every team is going to have flaws, and frankly, at varying times during this season, there's going to be 28 other teams that are going to be not happy with the result. So this is our time now, and this is our chance to continue to prepare, as every offseason is, to continue to do that.
See, the thing I don't understand about that bite is you didn't really say anything there. And when you talk about continuity and the same players, and we've had the same players, and, it's different teams and different reasons, but all those reasons are the same, and all the issues are the same. Because you're a one-trick pony on this team, because largely over the last 6 years, you have not changed the core grouping of this team. Really, over the last 4 years, you haven't changed the grouping of this team. And if you look at the last 3 years, this team is almost exactly the same. You are, Bogey, you are Don, you are Rudy. Obviously, the Mike Conley trade was a big change. The decision to re-sign Mike Conley was a big change. But the players over the last 3-4 seasons really haven't changed that much. And the issues with this team really haven't changed that much. You continually get beat by teams that are more athletic. And it's interesting. I want to also play this bite from Justin Zanik talking about Quin Snyder, because it's interesting to hear almost the excuse of, hey, we've played 3 seasons in 2 years. And I think it's very interesting listening to Justin Zanik talk and say nothing really at all.
So, look, I think we've always been transparent about this, and I don't know how I can make it any more clear. Quin Snyder is one of the best coaches in the NBA. There is no other partner that I would rather have as a coach, a leader of our players, and a partner in the front office than Quin Snyder.
Jazz general manager Justin Zanik talking about Quin Snyder. I guess that's as supportive as he's going to be. That's pretty supportive, right? But nobody follows up with, hey, what do you want Quin Snyder to do better? Hey, what do you need from your head coach to do better? I don't know. I felt like this press conference was a waste of time. I don't know that we got a whole lot out of it because, I don't know what you would expect Justin Zanik to say. Mm-hmm. Oh, Quin Snyder, he's got to play young guys or he's not going to be here as our head coach. He's not going to say that. He's not going to say anything like that. I think when you look at Quinn's influence on this organization, the moment Dennis Lindsey left, it only got stronger, right? I think we've talked about for the last year, we've told you there would be no change with Quin Snyder. And I think the decision around Quin Snyder, as I was told again on Friday, Quin Snyder's going to decide whether he's here or not. The Utah Jazz are not going to fire Quin Snyder. The Utah Jazz are not looking to make a change with Quin Snyder. They're focused solely on their roster. That's where the Jazz are. But when you hear Justin Zanik talking, what are your feelings about what he said?
Yeah, I just think it's coach speak. I think it's classic, front office PR guy talk. And I understand that any front office guy doing a press conference is going to come with talking points and is going to be real general about things. They like to avoid answering things, specifically. So to a degree, I understand that. But, I think also when someone asks you like, hey, what, like the continuity thing, they kind of softballed him a question after that where it was like, hey, well, you have continuity. How do you balance keeping continuity but also getting better? Whereas the question should have been like, hey, yeah, you've had continuity. Continuity is one of the most important things in the league to winning a championship. You say you have it, but you haven't won anything. That's what the question should have been. So when I hear Justin Zanik talk, what I hear is a guy who doesn't get asked blunt questions. What I hear is somebody who has it pretty easy as far as his relationship with the media. And I think that that's just kind of the situation that we have in Salt Lake. I do wish that, he was a bit more blunt about it. I wish he would say something like, yeah, we have this continuity, but clearly we're missing something. Clearly there's a piece that we just haven't figured out yet. And that's going to be goal number 1 this offseason. I just wish the tone was more like matter of fact. Like, hey, X, Y, and Z question. Well, yeah, we're going to figure that out in the offseason. But right now, 12 hours post losing to Dallas, yeah, I think the issue is we have continuity, but that continuity wasn't enough to carry us to where we want to go, which was to be, as the Jazz organization has said, to be the last team standing. That's kind of been their talking point. So, yeah, when I hear him talk, I feel like he just kind of softballs and talks around the point. Whereas I wish, and I feel like we do hear it from other people, like Doc Rivers is a decent example. Doc Rivers often will just say it how it is. He gets criticized for that, but I appreciate that about Doc. I don't agree with everything he says, but I do appreciate it. I do appreciate the bluntness with which he talks. So, yeah, when I hear Zanik talk, I just am like, man, just say it straightforward.
Just spit it out.
Just speak it, dude.
Now, I've been covering the NBA for a lot of years, and I've heard a lot of press conferences. I've sat in a lot of postseason exit interviews. And a lot of times you just don't say anything because this is a very emotional time for basketball teams. I mean, you just ended your season, frankly, in a way that is not what I would call pleasing for you, right? I mean, there's a lot of disappointment around the way this season ended for the Utah Jazz, but I also think that this is why the Jazz operate with autonomy in this town, because there's nobody questioning them. There's nobody asking follow-up questions. Like, you can go through that press conference and there is not a pointed follow-up question. Like, hey, I understand that, there's no other coach you'd rather work with, but you have had 6 years of playoff disappointment consecutively with the same head coach. What does Quin Snyder need to do better to help this team win?
Look, we'll get into a lot of that stuff in the offseason.
Right? Like, they ask the question at least, right? Hey, you say that, you're happy with your continuity and you're glad that the players have been together and there's value in that. What is the value of that continuity when you've lost in the playoffs 6 years in a row and you are now incredibly disappointed and got knocked out in the first round by the Dallas Mavericks? How valuable is that continuity to the Utah Jazz? Because that continuity is not one you a damn thing.
Yeah.
And my feeling is that when you look at the way that this organization is structured, with Danny Ainge sitting at the top of the ladder now, just under Ryan Smith, I think Justin Zanik is the mouthpiece. I know for a fact Danny Ainge doesn't like talking to the media.
Yeah.
I know for a fact that Danny Ainge would rather be invisible. I know Danny Ainge doesn't enjoy the public forum in almost any situation. So I think Justin Zanik's a guy that's going to fill that role for them. We'll see what happens. We'll see, are they going to make trades to bring in draft stock? Are they going to, accommodate Rudy Gobert? Because I can tell you this, sources told me on Friday and Saturday that Rudy Gobert is genuinely unhappy with his role on this team. And Rudy Gobert feels like he is a scapegoat for the defensive struggles of this team. And Rudy Gobert believes that he should have a larger role in the offense. And from what sources have told me, and I have verified it twice over, Rudy Gobert told the Utah Jazz that while he's not wanting to be traded, he would welcome a trade if it puts him in a better situation. He is not going to stand in the way of the Utah Jazz moving him. And there is some question. The one thing that I have not been able to discern directly is, did Rudy Gobert say, hey, I'll welcome a trade to a contender, which I asked specifically and did not get a detailed response on. But there's no doubt that Rudy Gobert voiced his displeasure with the way this team is set up. And the other thing that came out of that conversation was that there is no doubt that Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell had significant issues coexisting in this locker room, as we reported from December on. And I think that's the number one thing that you have to get right, because Donovan Mitchell has told the Utah Jazz that he is going to be here for some time. Donovan Mitchell has told the Jazz, and the Jazz have told Donovan Mitchell, again, as we first reported back in January, I believe it was in our video on January 18th, and you can go back and watch that the Utah Jazz are committed to Donovan Mitchell. They met with him multiple times. They have told Donovan Mitchell repeatedly, we are going to build this roster around you. We are going to build a roster that plays to your strengths, and you're going to be the center of what we do. And that's what we all are anticipating. I can tell you that Donovan Mitchell has not, in any way, shape, or form, said, I'd like to be traded. I'd be open to a trade. I'm demanding a trade. Donovan Mitchell has said none of that to the Utah Jazz. Rudy Gobert, point blank last week, told the Jazz, I'd be open to a move. And that tells you a lot of different things about his character. This tells you pointedly that Rudy Gobert, if he's ever going to be anything in this league other than the 3-time Defensive Player of the Year, if he truly, because I think Rudy Gobert truly believes that he is an offensive force, and he's not. And the problem with Rudy Gobert is he doesn't have anybody telling him the truth, and that includes the Utah Jazz.
Yeah.
He doesn't have anybody that's willing to stand up to him and say, we can't give you the ball, which apparently was the source of 4 or 5 locker room exchanges this year that were not productive, when Rudy Gobert was demanding that they throw him the ball in the post. And when they did, it just did not end well. And from what I was told over the weekend, Rudy Gobert was presented with facts, statistics. He was given a video package that showed where his shortcomings on offense are. And he was given a video package in April, early April, They went to Rudy Gobert and had an individual film study with him where, from what I was told, they pointed out to him, hey, you need to be better. We've got to have a better Rudy Gobert on the pick and roll. Stop dropping. That drop to the basket, and I'm told it came to a head in the Houston game where he allowed Christian Wood to shoot a wide open three to send that game to overtime.
Yeah.
That's where that all came to a head. I think you're looking at a situation where I don't think you have a choice here. I think you have to trade Rudy Gobert. And I know that they had conversations about that at the trade deadline, but when you look at teams that have shown the most interest in Rudy Gobert, the Utah Jazz are not trading Rudy Gobert to the Dallas Mavericks. That is not happening. And I think one of the things that is very clear is that they would like to trade him to an Eastern Conference team. And I saw all of the talk this weekend about, hey, Charlotte in a trade that would return Gordon Hayward to the Utah Jazz. I just don't see that that's an option.
Yeah.
Gordon Hayward has lost significant athletic mobility since his leg injury, which is what the Jazz are trying to avoid. He is a better version of Bojan Bogdanovic. I would agree with that. But Bojan Bogdanovic and Gordon Hayward, one's not an upgrade to the other. You're trading like for like. So that deal doesn't make a lot of sense. And if you are going to move on Rudy Gobert, I would remind you that it's not a 1-for-1, a like-for-like trade. That's going to be a minimum three-team deal. It is so difficult when you're paying the luxury tax to trade a Rudy Gobert 1-for-1 to another team. It's almost impossible to do that.
Yeah, and I think, when I hear, these trade rumors and the fact that they're not exactly willing to just bluntly tell Rudy, like, hey, like, you are not good enough offensively for us to be feeding you. It kind of starts, at least in my mind, I start to kind of put some pieces together here, and you start to kind of understand. Like, I think that, in the organization, and this is an opinion, but I think in the organization, some real, like, truth, bluntness about where you are might be necessary. Again, let's take it back all the way to the beginning of the season. This organization and this team came into the season with the stated goal of winning a championship. Again, being the last team standing. Right there on this show, we told you that was a problem. We told you that re-signing Mike Conley and paying the luxury tax to do it, like to try and win a championship, wasn't good enough. That this group plus Mike Conley was not good enough. So that's why I say, like, whether we're talking about Zanik, whether we're talking about their relationship with Rudy, whether we're talking about Don and what he's got going on. This organization just needs to be more honest, be more blunt about where you are. It should not be some war crime to say that this team isn't championship quality right now. Like that, imagine what this organization could have got done if at the beginning of the year you said, hey, even with Mike Conley, I don't think that we're better than the Suns. I don't think that we're better than Memphis. I don't think that if we pay the luxury tax to get this guy, that's going to propel us to the NBA Finals. So that's why I say this. That's why I think, Danny Ainge, as much as his experience will be impactful, I think the way he goes about it will also be very impactful for the people around him.
Yeah, I don't know that there's an easy solution here. I really don't. I think one of the things that is very difficult is anytime you make a foundational trade, you better think twice about it. And I think the Utah Jazz have spent a considerable amount of time weighing the value of Donovan Mitchell, weighing the value of Rudy Gobert, weighing the value of Quin Snyder, because again, point blank on Saturday afternoon, I was told that Quin Snyder's our head coach as long as he wants to be. Right now, today, Quin Snyder's the head coach of the Utah Jazz as long as he wants to be. And, I also heard a lot about Quin Snyder and the Lakers on Saturday. And I think that the one thing that is very clear to me is that Quin Snyder's not interested in that job. Mm-hmm. I mean, he just is not interested in that job. And I think that Quin Snyder has earned a lot of respect around this league for the job that he's done. Because let's be honest, he came into this Utah Jazz situation needing to do well. This was likely his last best chance at being a head coach in the NBA. I mean, the issues he had at Missouri, the tattered tales, the the long journey through assistant coaching internationally in the G League with the Lakers, with the Spurs, like his journey had taken him right here and right now, and he has done a stellar job over the last 8 seasons. But I understand why so many people believe that the Jazz would be looking at a change, but I can tell you right now, unequivocally, my sources at the Utah Jazz tell me they are not even considering that.
Yeah.
He is their guy. And, you know, we have heard really since the trade deadline that there had been friction between Quinn and the team. And he was frustrated because they did not make a move to help this roster at the trade deadline. There was frustration over the net return on Joe Ingles' expiring contract, which frankly wasn't much. And that Quin Snyder is dealing with a little frustration and a little burnout. And again, I think his situation is still up in the air because from what I was told over the weekend, he has not said, yeah, I'm definitely back next year. They are taking a little time away from each other, and then they are going to reconvene in the coming week and we really kind of go through the process. I don't think it is a hundo P that he's coming back. I really don't. Mm-hmm. I don't think I would if I were a betting man, I would take this off my board because I don't think that it is all for certain that Quin Snyder is going to be the head coach of the Jazz.
Yeah.
I think there is a chance he resigns. We talked about it last week that he's a grinder. That's one of the things I think you have to realize about Quin Snyder. He's not the guy that's like, oh, well, the season's over, time to go fishing. Like, that's not Quin Snyder. Quin Snyder is a proud man. He is a prideful performer who takes every loss very personally. And you can see that it wears on him. And losing in the first round, losing the way they lost in the second half of the season, this team has not consistently had chemistry issues. That's the other part of this that I think is so important to talk about, that this chemistry situation, really dating back to the last summer, this chemistry situation is one that is new to this locker room. And while it's not new now, they went through pretty much an entire season of bickering. And you look at what happened from really January through early April, this team was not enjoyable. This team did not enjoy being around each other. There was friction. The Rudy Gobert constant bitching and complaining. And I'm telling you, this started with his arguments with officials. All of those technical fouls that he racked up early in the season did not serve Rudy Gobert well in the locker room.
Yeah.
It didn't. And the funny thing is, you look at Bojan Bogdanovic, nobody complains to the officials more than Bojan. But you know what he doesn't do? He doesn't go into the locker room and chirp. He doesn't go into the locker room and go after guys. He doesn't get on social media and go after guys. And I think, and I know that incident where essentially Rudy Gobert called out Donovan Mitchell, and I think that was after the Suns game, where he calls out Donovan Mitchell, I think that was the last straw for the Utah Jazz. I think, and we've talked about this, there were a lot of people, if you go back to our shows that week, there were a lot of people telling us the Jazz were super pissed he did that. Super pissed they did that. Donovan handled it really well. Donovan Mitchell went back to work when that went down. Everybody knew what Rudy Gobert was doing. Donovan went right back to work, and for that, I give him a lot of credit. All of this to say that, again, I was told on Saturday that Rudy Gobert told the Jazz, hey, I am tired of being the scapegoat on defense, which you're not the scapegoat on defense. I don't know where that came from. And he's frustrated with his role in the offense. He believes that he should have a much larger chunk of the basketball on offense and that he would be open to a trade this offseason. He did not demand a trade. He did not say, I'm not going to play here anymore. You need to move me now. He simply said, I am open to moving to another organization if it ends the strife here.
Yeah.
If it puts me in a better position, which is, in my opinion, him saying, hey, if you're going to move me, send me to a contender. But they're not trading him to Dallas. They're not.
Yeah, and I saw all this nonsense on Twitter about, trading him to Golden State for Wiggins and a package of picks. They're not going to do that, dude. That doesn't make any sense for anybody. I mean, it just doesn't. Like, you have to understand, and when we said this on Thursday and Friday, like, you got to understand, like, don't just, like, I feel like on Twitter, and I guess, who's surprised? It's Twitter, right? But I feel like on Twitter a lot we see, well, Bleacher Report said this, or we heard this guy say that. What do you guys think of Rudy to the Warriors for Wiggins and some picks? Yeah, great, but the only problem with that is the Jazz are never trading him to the Warriors for picks because they're your next door neighbor in the Western Conference. You're not doing that. So that's why I say, like, again, you just have to wait for the NBA Finals to end, wait for the NBA to go into its true offseason, and then you will see things will start happening. I think if I'm the Jazz, I agree with you. I want to ship his ass out east, send him to Toronto, send him to somebody who's halfway decent out there, and just be done with it. Because the truth is, every single day that this guy's on your roster and you're still in this situation is just another day you're not moving forward towards the end goal, which is winning a championship with Donovan Mitchell.
Yeah, and I wonder how much they value the draft. I wonder, that's one question that is, I asked that a couple of weeks ago, like, hey, how seriously do you guys take the draft this year? Because you really don't have a whole lot of chess pieces to play with at this point, right? And, you get the standard paid answer. Well, of course, we value our young guys and we're trying to develop and we understand. You get the standard answers. But I don't know that they do value the draft. I think they recognize that there are very few Giannis-type talents in the draft where you can bring in an absolute raw product and build that product into a superstar. Those guys are very few and far between.
Yeah.
And I think that when you look at the way the NBA works today, I think you realize that it's a relationship-based business. And I think they realize one thing that Donovan Mitchell brings that Rudy Gobert absolutely does not. Donovan Mitchell has deep, lasting relationships with players around the NBA. There's a lot of guys who like Don and who would want to play with Donovan Mitchell. You look at all the players around the league, you look at all the teams around the league that are lining up to try and make an offer for Donovan Mitchell, the recruiting that goes on with Donovan Mitchell, that's because he's well respected.
Yeah.
But there's another part of this that I think people have to understand. When these situations happen, and when guys like Rudy Gobert melt down, and when you go all in on a guy like Donovan Mitchell, what ultimately happens? Well, the guys that we're talking about, Don and Rudy, get exposed. They get exposed one way or the other. My guess is Rudy Gobert is going to get exposed in the wrong way. If the Utah Jazz decide to trade Rudy Gobert and they get an offer that they like and they move him down the road, Rudy's either going to take a step up and he's going to become an MVP candidate every single year because he's going to average 25 points and 20 rebounds, and the Utah Jazz are going to look silly. But my guess is that Rudy Gobert is going to be marginalized. When he goes to another team that does not make him the center of their orbit, that does not say, hey, you got to try and throw Rudy the ball, that views Rudy differently. And my guess is they don't move him to a contender. My guess is he winds up with a low to mid-table team that's on the cusp of the playoffs. He would wind up in a Sacramento. He would wind up in a place like in Orlando.
Mm-hmm.
He would wind up in a place like in OKC. He'd wind up in a place like a Toronto, like a Washington. A mid-table team to a low-table team.
Yeah.
And if he is in that situation where, think about Toronto, because I still maintain, and I don't know what you think, Jake, but I still maintain Toronto is the most likely destination for Rudy.
Well, and I think it makes the most sense for the Jazz. Like, I think that's what, like, I honestly, I don't think the Jazz give a damn what Rudy thinks about where he's going to go. I think what they're looking at is, okay, this is how much the guy makes. Thus, these are our options. And they know, like in the, and I don't have it, but in the presser from Justin Zanik, he made a joke about the fact that they don't have picks. So they know that they're not going to do much in the draft for a couple of seasons. So if I'm Justin Zanik, the logical thing to do would be look at the numbers on paper and say, okay, who are the teams that I have talked to already who have expressed interest? And then in addition to that, who are the teams that I could go to and say, hey, what do you think about this? And I'm telling you, they are not trading him in the Western Conference. I will die on that hill, and I'm happy to look like an idiot if they do. It makes zero sense. There would be no reason for them to do that when you've got those teams you were just mentioning, Orlando, Toronto. You know, I know we were just talking about the fact that the Charlotte Gordon Hayward angle doesn't make sense, but I still maintain Charlotte might be a team that you could make something happen with. So That's why I say they just got to get this guy out of here. Get him out of here. Move on from this situation so you can start getting to building a team around
Yes.
Donovan Mitchell, man.
Yeah, and I think when you look at teams like Toronto's interesting because they have assets you're interested in.
Mm-hmm.
And they could also send those assets to other teams to make a multi-team deal. I don't know that Charlotte can do that. I know that the Jazz will not trade. I've been told point blank 3 times that the Jazz are not going to trade him to a Western Conference playoff team.
Why would
they will not do that? Why are you going to make Dallas better? Because he's a great fit with Dallas. Because Dallas is not going to pass him the ball.
Yeah.
He is. You are not going to take the ball. And I don't know, does Jalen Brunson end up staying in Dallas? I don't know. I have no idea. He's going to be expensive.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about
paid.
that.
Yeah.
But if it's just even Luka Doncic and a bunch of dudes, if you trade Rudy to Dallas and surmise you end up with a Dwight Powell or whoever, you end up with some of their pieces. Do you really think Luka's going to pass Rudy Gobert the ball in the post?
Well, what I think is that Luka is more of a bona fide superstar in the league than Don is currently. Not to say that he's an actual pound for pound better player, but I think from a PR standpoint, he is a bigger superstar than Donovan Mitchell, and I don't think Rudy's going to be able to do what he does on the Mavericks that he does with the Jazz.
Well, and the other thing is when Rudy Gobert goes to a team like the Dallas Mavericks with Luka Doncic, and nobody says no to Luka.
Yeah.
Nobody says no to Luka.
He is that organization.
The shit that went on in the locker room here is not going to go on there because they're just not I mean, it's not your team. You've been here your entire career.
Yeah.
You've been here. You're established here. You're going to go to another team and you're going to wind up in a situation where you're going to struggle to be a leader.
Yeah.
You're going to wind up in a situation where nobody's going to care what you think.
Yeah, you got to earn your respect, and I think that's a really important point. But I want to touch on one thing. I know you were saying, hey, it's hard to find a guy in the draft that can really change your fate.
Yes.
But I do agree with that generally speaking, but I think for the Jazz purposes, when you look at the Western Conference, how many of the good teams are built through the draft? Look at it. You've got Memphis, you've got the Suns, you've got the Warriors, you had the Sacramento Kings who were decent until they decided to trade Tyrese Halliburton. So you have these guys who are these teams that have done some nice things through the draft. The problem is because the Jazz have gone sideways so much, they're not able to be productive in the draft because they just don't have picks. So that's why I say, it's obvious that they're going to be more aggressive in the trade market. I think it would be obvious that you're going to pursue, things like the buyout market and free agency and all those other things because that's your path that you've laid. What other path do you have?
Yeah, I don't know that you have another path. I really don't. It'll be interesting to see what they do. Let's get some of your comments in here. What's up, Gabe Ledley? Good to see you. Rudy Sanchez, how the heck are you? Edgar Garcia, James Knight, Jeremy Bolton, Greg Hawkins, Forrest G, the Blind Swordsman. Blind Swordsman says, Gobert is not happy he's been given everything. Mitchell deserves more. By the way, I knew you would be right about building a team around Mitchell. Thank you. I appreciate that.
We'll get into a lot of that stuff in the offseason.
And Marcus had his comment tweeted. Marcus, I think his comment filtered.
Yeah.
But Marcus, I think this is the first time you've ever been here.
Uh-huh.
Marcus basically said, F you, you guys are wrong about everything. And he was referring to the Jazz, but he also made a comment about a super conference, right? So in 2014, when I worked at KFAM, we were talking about how Texas and Oklahoma and USC would like to form a super conference. Well, obviously, money changed, things happened. But by the way, where did Texas and Oklahoma go? Texas and Oklahoma went to the SEC.
Listen, man.
Which I think is hysterical.
Dude, listen. We've been talking about doing it. We'll put together a highlight reel of all the stuff that we've got right, and we'll put it as a featured video on our channel. That way, all you guys who come into the chat for the first time and hate have some documentation on everything that we've gotten right, just so you can feel a little better about yourself.
And you're never going to get everything right 100%. But I think if you've watched this channel specifically for the last year, because it's become our full-time job over the last 18 months, I don't think you can go back to anything BYU last year with Kalani Sitake's contract situation, we had his interview with Washington first. We told you almost word for word how that interview went.
The Oregon situation.
Yeah.
With Kalani.
I
too.
mean, this has not been rocket science. You're either right or you're wrong, right? In a lot of things, the problem for you guys with us is I don't really care about what other people think. It does not matter to me. I learned a long time ago that when you live your life, not for other people, but when you live your life without caring what those other people think of what you're doing and how you're doing it, your life becomes much simpler.
God bless.
It becomes much easier, right? And as far as the Jazz go, you know what? I see a lot of the people commenting that we're never right about anything. And listen, I again will just tell you, go back. It's all on video. It's all on video. Who was the first one that had the rumors about the locker room? And we turned those rumors into fact. Like, this has not been a good year for the Jazz.
Who was the first one to say when they signed that Rudy Gobert contract that they'd never win a championship with him and that they trade him in 2 seasons? Who was the first one to say that Mike Conley's deal would be a noose around their neck and it would not allow them to make moves?
And
right?
by the way, I think we also got the Joe Ingles trade right. I think we told you they were going to trade him.
Bro, we told
last
you
July, I believe, was the first time I watched the video on it the other day. I think it's July 27th, if I remember right. I could be wrong by a
we
day or
told
two.
you they were going to trade him even when the owner was tweeting they weren't going to trade him. Like,
Yeah.
how much more, and this is what I say. Listen, at the end of the day, there's always going to be these guys or gals that come in here and say, oh, you guys are
And
wrong.
we need you.
But the
We
funny
need
thing
you.
is, here's the funny thing. This is what always ends up happening. And please, for the people who are long times, back me up on this. We always get these, I can't remember the guy's name. Driftwood came in here months ago and said, oh, you guys are idiots and don't know anything. And then he came around in like 6 weeks when we got a bunch of stuff right. Like, we see it all the time. So it's fine. The funny part is, to your point, please comment, hate on us. Awesome. It helps the show.
It really does.
Please come
It
in
really
here
does.
and tell us we're idiots. It's fine. We don't care because the fact is like, you can go back. That's the great thing about YouTube. This is different than TV. The great thing about YouTube is it's all on the channel and you can go find it all.
History lives on.
Go ahead and dig it all up, man.
Scott Howard says, good morning, Monty and Jake. Tanner says, Gobert is such a snowflake. I think he's soft, Tanner. I don't
He's
think there's any
French.
doubt.
What do you expect?
Yeah. JP Shanahan says, got your message on YouTube that you awarded me a prize via Telegram. Thank you once again for that, but how does your Telegram system work? Yeah, it doesn't. That's the other thing that's amazing. Our channel has gotten to the point now where now people like try to replicate our channel to leverage listeners. And
Yeah.
we're never going to message you directly on just know that we're never going to message you directly on YouTube.
Yeah.
We're never going to do that. We don't use Telegram. We do not. We use social media DM and we make you DM us.
Yeah.
We do not DM you. Period. It's just, if anybody ever sends you a DM being like, hey bro, you won, know that that's not accurate.
He's just a hack.
No. It just doesn't, it doesn't work that way. You can't trust anything that people say at press conferences, in my opinion. Totally agree with that.
Well, and that's
totally
the thing.
agree with
That's
that.
the thing. Like, again, to bring this full circle on the Zanik thing, like, I just think that the guy comes prepared to press conferences as you would expect. I'm not criticizing him for that. But what I wish would take place in this organization, and it's not going to because the media won't make it happen, honestly. But what I wish would take place is I just wish they were more honest. Just be more blunt and straightforward. Like, hey, yeah, we do have continuity on this team because the core has been together, but we're missing something. And we have been missing something. And this goes back to the bubble 3 years ago. And we need to figure out what that is because we have a generational superstar in Donovan Mitchell, and we've got guys around him that really should allow us to win, and it's not happening. So that's going to be my priority in this offseason is figuring that out. Why is that so difficult to say?
Yeah, I don't know.
Why is that so difficult to say? I don't know. I don't know. I mean, we can blame the media. I mean, it is the media's fault for not pressing them, but at the same time, like, that's how this town works. So
Yeah, and obviously there's a lot of people in the media in Salt Lake City that make their living on the Jazz and would never do anything to make that difficult.
and I respect that.
Yeah.
I respect that.
Yeah, Jeremy Bolton says press conferences, post-game interviews, coach interviews are stupid. No one ever says anything anymore. 100% of it is coach speak. Absolutely.
We'll get into a lot of that stuff in the offseason.
Yeah, what does that mean? Hey, bud.
By the way.
Hey, this is the off season. Just so you know. Ruff's official says they'll pander to Mitchell, a role player, not a superstar. They'll continue to lose, and he'll leave in 2 to 3 years. Could be right. I think you're going to find out now, though.
But hey, Ruffs, you're another guy just like that. You're another guy who is a Rudy Gobert supporter who cannot come up with anything tangible about why Rudy should get the ball more over Donovan Mitchell. Yet you still listen every day because we're getting things right. And you know we're getting things right, even though you won't admit it. So I appreciate you. That's what I'm saying. Like, all these people that come in here and leave these comments, like, great, do it. It helps us. We need you, dude. Like, please, thank you.
Tanner says, oh, hey, Ruff's official. I had a feeling you'd show up. Ruff says, don't worry, I'm here. Scott Howard says, this is the first year I haven't felt Don was clutch and looked hesitant in the clutch. I absolutely agree with that.
Yeah.
Scotty, I think you're exactly right.
Yeah.
I think I think Don wants to be clutch, but
he's passive.
I would love to be able to have an off-the-record, honest, one-to-one conversation with Donovan and ask him, why'd you pass that ball? Why'd you give that ball up at half court?
Well,
the ball that led to Mike Conley traveling, why did you give that up?
Why did you give it up in the bubble? Why did you give it up last year? Why did you give it up this year? It is a fair criticism of Donovan Mitchell.
Absolutely.
I'm with you. I think he is the guy that you should build around, but there's some caveats with that. He needs to grow up a little bit and take a step forward.
He has to perform.
Yeah, man.
I'll just say, I think he is going to be a murderer this summer. I think he is going to get in the gym.
Agree.
And I think he is going to build a mid-range game because he needs footwork and he needs a mid-range game. Those two things make him a much better defender.
Imagine if he could do what Jalen Brunson did in the paint. Like, if he could play that style of basketball.
And that's why a lot of people are saying that Luka is not as good as he is without Jalen Brunson, and I agree with that. I think Luka Doncic needs to be off the ball, and you always need a number two. And they don't have a number two in Dallas. They need Jalen Brunson. They need him. And they want him. I don't think they'll let him get away. I think they will pay dearly for that.
Yeah.
You know, I just, it'll be interesting. And Garci, what's up, my friend? He says, morning, actually doing some work today. Just stopped by to give a casual high five to all the regular casuals. Good to see you, Garci. He says, definitely catch the podcast on Stitcher. Shout out to Stitcher. And shout out to Luca's mom. How about Rudy to Houston? They have a couple of talent we could develop or underdevelop, LOL. Yeah,
okay,
seriously.
See? But that's a conversation.
Houston, now, what is interesting is Houston was trying to get into the Russell Westbrook trade, and there are some people who believe the Jazz were the third team in that, and that the Jazz could have had Montrezl Harrell and Christian Wood, amongst others, in that deal.
Mm-hmm.
And that, to me, would have been a huge win. They'd have been a far better team in the playoffs.
Yeah.
A far better team. Scott Howard says, love Rudy, and he will always be a favorite Jazz man of mine, but it's time to move off of him. Ruff's official says, I wasn't sure if I chose the right show because they need to trade Rudy every show. Well, you know what? I don't know that it's – I think that tells you how much of a drag he's been on the culture of this team this year. I mean, I think that Rudy has been a significant talking point because he's been a significant issue.
What else is there, not to cut you off, but like the question I would pose to people who say that, and I respect that point because we do talk about it a lot, but what else would you talk about with this team? Do you want us to talk about, like these gnarly trade scenarios that are unrealistic? Do you want us to talk about like Donovan Mitchell's issues in the community as far as getting shut down with the political stuff? Do you want us to talk about the free scholarship program? Like what else? Because Rudy is the thing on this team right now, and that really is the issue. Like, for better or for worse, Rudy is where we always end up going because he is the second guy, but he's the first guy on the payroll. So that naturally comes with a conversation. So that's why I say it's not like we wake up every day and we're like, all right, how can we hate on Rudy Gobert today? That's not the goal. But the goal is to have an honest discussion about where the organization is at. And I'm telling you, Rudy is the center of the conversation because he's not an offensive performer.
Yeah. Brett Robbins says Rudy Gobert for a bag of Skittles and a half-eaten Almond Joy will suffice just nice for me.
No, that was the Joe Ingles trade you're talking about, right?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
No, but they were getting Roco.
Yeah, okay.
Remember that whole thing?
Roco, right.
Yeah, Robert Covington for Joe Ingles was happening.
Right.
Get out of here.
Right.
Whatever. Daniel Westover, good morning to you.
Good morning, sir.
Welcome to the show. With Rudy, the phrase addition by subtraction comes to mind. Look at how great the Jazz played in that second quarter when the lane was open on offense. I want more of that. Yeah, no doubt.
And then what did you see in the next game? But this is a really good point. I'm glad you said this. What did you see in the next game? Quinn put him on the floor, but took him out of the paint to try to get the best of both worlds. You want the defensive protection, but you need the paint to be more open.
Yes.
Well, you saw that adjustment. Now it didn't really work. It didn't really pan out. But these are the games within the game that you had that they were playing.
I think that's very well said. Kelsey Hamer, good morning to you. Bro, we need to move off Rudy so fast because he doesn't want to work on that. He wants to just be handed the ball even though he's offensive trash. I think there's something in that. I do.
And I thought your point about them showing him offensive tape, like Rudy to me, and again, this is just speculation, right? This isn't, obviously I don't have a credential and I don't spend time in person with Rudy, but based on his actions, he seems like somebody who is like, all right, hey, Rudy, here's tape of you bringing the ball down and turning it over. Here's tape of you trying to do a drop step to your right shoulder and turning it over. If you want the ball more, you got to work on that. And then he seems like the guy who would take that and say, no, that was just a one-off thing, or like just wouldn't take it credibly or wouldn't take it to heart and actually work on it.
Well, you can just see with Rudy's turnovers and his issue with offense is, one, his footwork is not very good offensively, but to play in the post as a big man, you need to understand how to use your upper body and your lower body together for leverage, and you need to understand that you can't. Rudy tends to dip his shoulder and stick his left arm way out, which is where the ball is, and that gets you a turnover.
Yeah.
He just doesn't have the fundamentals of that. And you can work on that. You can absolutely work on handle. What I don't think he'll ever be able to get to is a turnaround fadeaway jumper. He's not going to be a guy, one, he's just too clumsy, and he's not a refined athlete. He's not a guy that's ever going to have touch. He doesn't have, like, if you look at Giannis Antetokounmpo and Rudy Gobert, they were similar players in that they always dunked. Now, Rudy's a 7-footer who rim runs. Giannis is an athlete that wants to run down your throat, right? But Giannis always had handles. Giannis always had a little touch around the rim.
Athleticism.
He had way more athleticism, but now he's turned into a shooter, and he's worked on that faithfully. He took it to heart, and it's paid dividends for him.
You saw it yesterday.
So, yeah, I think Rudy isn't that guy.
Yeah.
That's the hard part. JP Shanahan says, if Gobert wants to be a stronger focal point on offense, why can't he just work on his offensive game in the summer? That way Utah would have no excuse for not giving him the ball. Because I don't know that he's a 7-foot rim runner. Those guys don't win championships.
Isn't Rudy Gobert 30 years old now?
Yeah.
Well, how old is he?
He's not young anymore. I think that's a common misconception that Rudy Gobert, I want to say that
He's
Rudy
29.
is but this is his 30-year-old season,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, he'll turn 30 this year.
Yeah, he is a guy
Next month.
He's not young anymore.
Yeah.
I want people to understand that. Donovan Mitchell, look at Donovan. What is Donovan? 24, I
I
think.
think he's 25 now.
I mean, Donovan is at a tipping point where he is.
Yeah, he's 25.
Where he's at a point where he is getting to the point where he's not young anymore.
It's time to get going.
He is at that point where in NBA time, you accelerate into a superstar, you fall back. Guys are playing into their late 30s. Donovan has 10 years of peak performance directly in front of him. But he's got to grow. He has to get better.
Look at where Devin Booker's at 25 years old.
Completely different player.
Right? So but also look at what the organization did before Devin took this leap. And this is what I think is so important. The conversation is not, hey, Devin is just a better overall player because he's just better. That's not the conversation. The conversation is, look where Book was 2 years ago on a struggling team with a struggling head coach, with a bad, supporting cast. They draft Cam Johnson. They draft DeAndre Ayton. They get rid of their head coach. They get Mikal Bridges. They get James Jones in the front office. So now what have they done? They put Book in a position to play with Chris Paul, who's taught him a lot, who's allowed him to take that step. So that's a huge portion of his development.
They also brought in a well-respected black head coach.
Yeah.
And I think in today's NBA, that's critical. I mean, I think when you have young players, young African-American players on your team, you have to have a young African-American coach.
Yeah.
I think that is respected, and Monty Williams was absolutely respected. And I think bringing in Chris Paul, so what is the dynamic that plays in Phoenix? You have a young black head coach that's respected, a younger-ish, a veteran guy, but he's not the old world. He's not Rick Carlisle. He's not Monty Williams is a guy that has become one of the best head coaches in the NBA.
He's 50 years old.
Yeah, in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
He's become one of the best head coaches in the NBA. But the way that works is you have this guy that's turning into this great head coach, but you have one of the best point guards in the history of the NBA that's a veteran point guard who walks in the room dripping of respect, right? So you have a coach that's respected, you have a point guard that's respected, and you have this should-be better player in Devin Booker who then all of a sudden just grows leaps and bounds.
Yeah.
But what also happened there, you had a bunch of young talent influxed in the organization. You have a center that can shoot a jump shot. You have a guy in Mikal Bridges who walked into that team as a lockdown defender. You have a guy in Cam Johnson that's a knockdown three-point shooter.
Yeah.
You just have young melding with veteran, melding with respected coach that's black. I think it's a huge, huge component. I think that's the perfect scenario. And you have a young black general manager, and I say this specifically talking race with the Suns because of who their owner is.
Mm-hmm.
And you had to separate management, coaching, and players from that owner. And I think you're now seeing that that's paying the fruits of the labor.
And you're seeing Donovan Mitchell not having that as a big deal.
That's exactly right. And I think you have a very inexperienced owner. Very inexperienced owner. Something happening on your phone there?
Well, see, I'm a big Caitlin Collins fan.
Oh,
and
Jesus,
so I have Twitter alerts up for her. And she tweeted an update about how the U.S. ambassadors are trying to get back into Ukraine.
So, how much self-pleasuring did you do to the correspondence dinner the other night?
Dude. I mean, it was on replay like 5 times.
Yeah, forearm tendonitis.
Yeah, man. I mean, my left arm was a little sore, bro.
You are a huge Caitlin Collins fan.
Yeah, I am. Big fan.
Not so much.
Big fan, man.
Anyway, the point is, the Jazz have some work to do because your owner is wildly inexperienced. He's making mistakes.
Well, and he's being investigated. You know.
Well, the Suns owner.
Oh, you're talking. Okay, sorry.
Ryan Smith is not being investigated.
No, Ryan Smith is not.
Ryan Smith is young and making a bunch of mistakes.
Yeah.
And I think you have a general manager that I think is learning on the job, even though he is very experienced. Justin Zanik has never been the guy. And I think you're digging out of a hole from Dennis Lindsey. I am not surprised at all that Dennis Lindsey doesn't have a job. I'm not surprised at all.
But he's a well-respected and loved Jazz
beloved
legend.
member of the Jazz family, please.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
Anyway, a couple more. James Knight says, rest assured they brought Danny Ainge in for a reason. This offseason will reveal all. I agree.
I hope so.
Jeremy Bolton says, Jazz need to build around Nacho Belgrande. I agree. But hey, stop being racist. Remember, we're racist because of that?
Yeah.
You know, JP Shanahan says, are you implying that Gobert is that guy? No, not implying.
You're not that guy, pal. Trust me. You're not that guy.
You're welcome, JP. Scott Howard says, do not bring Hayward back. Best years are behind him, and the Jazz need athleticism.
It's just such an unrealistic, like thing to say, like, hey, they're going to bring Gordy back. No, they're not. No, they're not. It's not happening.
No.
Like,
Kelsey
relax.
Hamer says, that's right. He also says, wait a minute. James Knight says, see the moron Draymond's fruitcake green get tossed? Here we go. He shouldn't have gotten a flagrant 2 for that, by the way.
It's definitely flagrant 1.
Yeah. Kelsey Hamer says, bro, does Rudy Gobert realize he's going to look like trash in other systems? That's a good question. Scott Howard says, anyone who would take Rudy over Don simply lets emotion get in the way. Rudy in a few years older to begin with, and he can't win you the game in clutch, which Don has done several times, I think.
Facts.
Truth, Monty, this season was one of the least enjoyable seasons as a fan. The team wasn't fun to follow. I would agree with that. Brett Robbins says, I miss Joe. Don't disagree with that either. OG says, Brett Robbins, you're going to give Monty a stroke with that one. What
did Brett say?
Brett Robbins says Jazz need to build around Royce Buckets O'Neal because he just gets straight buckets.
You mean Buckets O'Bench?
Can we please stop calling him Buckets O'Neal? Like, somebody needs to hit Bowler with a 2x4.
You're not that guy, pal. Trust me. You're
Man.
not that guy.
Good night. I maintain that Donovan Mitchell will be a better player than Booker when their careers are said and done, James Knight says. Could be.
Yeah, and look,
Could be.
I hope so. But for that to happen, he's got to have a supporting caster on him that can be productive and actually, knock down the wing shot when you're wide open with 5 seconds on the clock. Yeah.
Want to knock down.
Like, come on.
Yeah. Rec One says, imagine a full season of rebuild with Bench O'Neal as your best offensive player. Good Lord.
Jesus.
Going to be a lot of top 4 picks, that's for sure, Brett Robbins says. Jeremy Bolton says, Ryan Smith hasn't had time to make any mistakes yet. Dude just barely got the team. Well, actually, I totally disagree.
That's not true.
The Mike Conley deal, mistake. Rudy Gobert deal, mistake. Trading Joe Ingles for your mom, mistake. Not signing Alex Caruso, Jeremy, mistake.
Fucking A.
His tweets don't help. The never trading Joe Ingles or not going to trade Joe Ingles, mistake.
He's as it was said in Gladiator. You win the crowd, you win your freedom. That's what Ryan's trying to do. He's trying to win the crowd, bro.
Yeah, but also said in Gladiators, people need to know when they're conquered.
That's true.
And
That's true.
The Jazz are conquered.
Rudy needs to learn when he's conquered, bro.
What are they investigating the Suns owner of? Putting goats in his general manager's office and allowing them to shit everywhere. He actually did that.
It gets me every time.
I can't believe he did that.
It's not funny, but it is funny.
Good old Bobby Sarver, man.
Yeah, good old Bobby.
Dude, just Google it. It's a horrendous. The allegations against Bob Sarver are horrendous. I mean, not good. Why does the race of the coach matter? In Phoenix, it matters.
Well, in the NBA, it matters. I mean,
well, I think in Phoenix in particular, it matters. I mean, when you have Robert Sarver as your owner, and you had a line of coaches that were trash, and then I think he went out of his way to give James Jones the general manager position to bring an air of equality into that organization.
Yeah.
And then he got out of the way a little bit and let James Jones operate. I think it's sending a message, and I think, you know what, man? I don't care why. Robert Sarver is a detestable human being, in my opinion.
Yeah.
He is no better than Daniel Snyder. He is no better than, you name the worst owners in sports. Robert Sarver's on that list. I mean, it just is, it's brutal. It's brutal. Jeremy Bolton says, I'll agree not signing Caruso a huge mistake. Trade Rudy and Mitchell straight across for Caruso. I think you could do that. I mean, the fashionista that is, Caruso in the headband. Old vets on bad contracts, truth. Kay Nurin says, bring back freedom. Someone we can talk about other than Rudy. Exactly right. Yeah, JP, he put goats in the guy's office.
Yeah, literally.
Ryan McDonough.
Yeah.
The general manager. He wanted a superstar, a generational talent on his team. And so to send that message, he wanted a goat. So he put goats in McDonough's office, and they quite literally shit everywhere. Like, it's terrible. It was terrible. Brutal. All right. Don't forget to shop our affiliate links below. The best T-shirt you've ever owned, the Carhartt T-shirt, is there. AirPods are still on sale. Like, all the stuff you want, all the stuff you need, right there below.
Yeah.
Also, check out our Jeep Wrangler JL Rubicon build video. Took it out to Little Moab this past weekend. It was awesome. And it's going to be completely different. The next weekend when we post a vlog of the Jeep, it's going to be a shocking difference.
Getting real.
Shocking difference. Okay, let's move on to Trevor Bauer, because I think this is a big deal. So you know that Dodger pitcher Trevor Bauer has been accused now, I think it's by 3 women. One over the weekend came out and said she would meet with the baseball arbiter who's going to make this decision that I'm going to tell you about. But Trevor Bauer has been accused of being a guy that will choke his female companion out during sex without her consent. And while I think this woman from San Diego is a liar, and I don't say that lightly when we talk about women that are claiming rape and sexual abuse, she lied and got caught. There are other women who have said that Trevor Bauer, and one of them was a woman he was in a relationship for years, said that Trevor Bauer choked her unconscious without her permission during sex. And she is willing to talk to the MLBPA arbitrator who is going to decide this, because Trevor Bauer was suspended for 2 years and is not eligible to play Major League Baseball until 2024. It is a massive suspension.
Yeah.
It is a 346 game suspension. And it's going to cost him probably hundreds of millions of dollars. Between endorsements, salary, this is a big deal. He has appealed the suspension, Trevor Bauer, which means that it will go in front of the arbitrator, who, by the way, remember the process. MLB and the Major League Baseball Players Association hire an arbitrator to hear all of their cases. And that guy is going to decide Trevor Bauer's future. Trevor Bauer, as I rightly predicted on the show, is somebody else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that would be you.
Mm-hmm.
Did not rightly predict, is never going to play for the LA Dodgers again. And I think there is a really good chance his Major League Baseball career is over. And I also think there's a really good chance he gets every penny that he is owed on that contract. But Trevor Bauer, in my opinion, I think he's deserving of a suspension for the rest of this season. But in my opinion, Jake, I think this was way over the top by Major League Baseball.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the most ridiculous suspensions I've ever seen. I mean, and I've been watching baseball for a long, long time. You know, through the Ryan Braun suspension, just all kinds of obviously things that have gone on. And I just think it's completely heavy-handed. I mean, I understand that baseball has an image to keep up, and I understand that this is very much a PR bad look type thing, because technically he hasn't broken any laws. Technically, he's not guilty of anything except being extremely rough and, you know, pretty much brutal during sex with his several partners or whatever. But I think that he's technically not guilty of anything, and this is sort of where the lines get blurred in sports. You know, we see this so often in the NFL with domestic abuse. You know, if there's tape, you're done. If there's not tape, you're probably not done. I mean, it's literally gotten to that point. So in this instance, you know, again, he's not guilty of anything. So that's where I have, you know, a lot of trouble. You're basically saying,
and
hey,
I want to clarify this. You're saying he's not been found criminally
he's
responsible.
not criminally. Yeah, he's not going to jail. He's not been found guilty criminally of anything.
Let's clear this up real quick, because this is really important. Trevor Bauer has not been charged with a crime and will not be charged with a crime for anything related to what happened with the woman in San Diego at his home in Pasadena. And he has not been charged with a crime on any of these situations. This is purely a suspension based on the Major League Baseball domestic violence protocols that were put into place, I believe, in 2015. And this is by far the heaviest suspension under the domestic violence protocol.
And that's what I'm saying. What do you really, what is the, outside of, hey, this is a really bad look for Major League Baseball. This is like a star pitcher for one of your star franchises in the league. What really are you suspending him for? That's my thing. Because at this point, you're essentially suspending him for doing some heinous things that were permitted during sex. That's essentially what you're suspending him for.
No, what you're suspending him for is because you have multiple women accusing Trevor Bauer of committing heinous acts against them while they were having sex against their permission. He is being accused of choking out this woman from San Diego, beating her physically. She got laughed out of court, and text messages and the evidence did not support what she accused Trevor Bauer of doing. However, Trevor Bauer did not deny choking this woman. He did not deny physically assaulting this woman. And it's interesting that his former longtime, partner is coming out and saying that he choked her to unconsciousness, allegedly, without her permission. And that's why Major League Baseball has suspended him, because this woman in San Diego and other women have made these allegations about Trevor Bauer. Trevor Bauer is only being suspended for 2 years because it's going to get reduced in arbitration. And Major League Baseball does not want Trevor Bauer playing baseball this year. And I think Major League Baseball would do just fine if it came out that Trevor Bauer was never going to play for a Major League Baseball club again. And my guess is that Major League Baseball would look the other way on collusion of keeping Trevor Bauer out of the game altogether?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. My guess is he's never going to play in the bigs again. That'd be my guess. He is a pariah. He is somebody that will be picketed and protested. There's no doubt about that. Did Trevor Bauer do anything wrong? I don't know. I guess that's your moral compass will decide that. Did he do anything criminal? No, he didn't. According to the LA County prosecutor, no, he did not. Or the district attorney, no, he did not. I don't know why this other woman didn't file police reports and try to get him arrested, or I don't know. But what I do know is the LA Dodgers will never have him wear their uniform again. And I believe that he will probably, quote unquote, win his arbitration, in that I believe that the suspension will be reduced on some level. I think he'll be suspended for the rest of this year by the arbitrator. That'd be my guess.
Yeah.
Having said that, I totally disagree with the suspension and the actions that Major League Baseball took. 2 years is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, the issue here is that Trevor Bauer has been paid the entire time he's been suspended. So he was paid, I want to say he was paid his entire $30+ million salary last year. In fact, I know he was. And he was paid, what have they played, 15, 20 games this year? So he's been paid this year. And now MLB levied this suspension, which they took their sweet-ass time doing. And they said you'll be suspended this entire year, and you'll be suspended the entire 2023 season, and you'll be allowed to apply for reinstatement for 2024. I think it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Rob Manfred is such a shitty commissioner. It's unbelievable to say that he's the worst commissioner in baseball. He's the worst commissioner in baseball history, and I think he's the worst commissioner in professional sports.
Yeah.
Because I didn't think there have been some pretty bad commissioners in baseball. I had no idea that anybody would be this bad. I mean, just the Arizona Diamondbacks situation on its own.
Yeah. It's embarrassing.
I mean,
the whole thing is ridiculous.
yeah, it's not good.
Yeah.
It's not good. So they banned him for 2 years for hearsay. Yeah, that's essentially
Yeah,
what
pretty
happened.
much. Pretty much.
And there is tape on the Astros, and that's exactly right.
Yeah.
What did they do with the Astros situation? Exactly right. Meanwhile, you have the Astros who freaking cheated and got caught cheating, and it was a slap on the wrist for the organization, Jeremy Bolton says. And there was tape. Yeah, absolutely.
Some people lost their jobs. A memo came out.
Oh, by the
now
way,
we
all
get to
those
move
people
on.
are working again.
Yeah.
I'd remind you.
Yeah. Alex
I mean-
Cora is the manager of the Red Sox.
Yeah. What's his name's the manager, and the guy that was the manager of the team
Yeah.
is now the manager of the Detroit Tigers. His name just went
I
right
can't
out of my
remember his
head.
name off the top of my head.
Anyway,
but yeah.
the point is, it's a joke, man. Major League Baseball is an embarrassment. It's an absolute.
That said, I
embarrassment.
love Major League Baseball. The product itself, I love it.
Oh yeah, I'm a huge
I love
baseball
ball
fan.
games, but the way it's run and the culture and everything is just jacked, man. It sucks.
Jacked.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree. It's just so interesting to me. How many people and I don't read DMs on the show anymore, by the way. I do reply to some of you on DMs on Instagram, but I will not read your DMs. Like Barry, you need to comment on the show. I just won't. Erich Tavera said, my husband said if he was Trevor Bauer since he effed up, whoa, comment dump. Where'd you go, Erich? He would get it on with Luca's mom. Go out with a bang.
Pause, bro. Pause.
Chill out.
You ain't wrong. You ain't wrong. Let's speaking of this,
Mm-hmm.
let's talk about husbands and wives on their cell phones. So I want to say it was Georgia or Alabama, somewhere. A woman is divorcing her husband, and she is a Christian conservative, is how this woman identified.
Christian conservative.
And she says that her husband is a I think she used the word serial philanderer and a pervert.
Wow.
And that she can no longer live in the same home with him. In the eyes of Christ, it makes her a sinner. All of this because she got into his cell phone one day.
Just stop right there. Just pause the tape. It's over. It's over, dude. The whole marriage is over right there.
She got into his cell phone. Did she find text messages or pornographic images of him and his girlfriend? No, she didn't. Did she find any evidence on his phone that he had been physically unfaithful to her, was having an affair with a woman in the community or anywhere? No, she did not. You know what she found? That on TikTok and Instagram, he followed women who did not wear very many clothes. And that he followed, there's a woman on TikTok who I guess, I've seen them a few times where there's like dances they do that like you wear baggy clothes and then you hit some beat and you wind up in a swimsuit, a bikini.
Right.
And like
It's a trend.
all of the trends on TikTok that
trend.
lead to like nudity and cleavage.
Right.
She says that that's all he follows. And to his credit in the story, they said that the majority of his accounts, he only followed 3 men. And she says that that is him being a serial philanderer and a pervert.
Okay, so that's how it's going to be.
And in the eyes of Christ, she would be a sinner if she stayed in the same home with him.
This is completely ridiculous, dude. It's completely ridiculous. Like,
First of all, let's just be honest. This is not cheating on your husband or on your wife, in my opinion. This is not. I follow quite a few of accounts like that, as it turns out. I was looking at my social media. I don't follow. Honestly, you know what I mostly follow? Sports and cars.
yeah.
Some food. I like following defense attorneys.
But I want to pinpoint this. So what I love about this woman's claim so much is she's essentially dismissing the idea that she follows dudes on Instagram. Like, notice there's no conversation of that. It's only, hey, well, he follows women and they show all their cleavage and everything, and that means I'm a sinner. What about all the dudes you follow on Instagram? What about all the accounts you follow?
Well, what about all these assholes that are chopping wood with axes?
Exactly. Precisely.
I mean, you literally, women only follow those guys for one reason.
Yeah.
They're sexy and it creates puddles in their pouches, right? Like
puddles in their pouches.
That, like it creates, a mist in the forest.
Like,
all I'm saying is that's no different than men following women that jump up and down in bikinis or
just kind of scruff it and play with it when it's wet.
That's what you're doing. That's the only reason you follow fucking lumberjacks. You can't tell me, ladies, you're out there looking for ways to chop new wood, so to speak.
Look, we'll get into a lot of that stuff in the offseason.
We will.
I'm sure you will.
We will get into that in the offseason.
I'm sure
But my
you
point
will.
is this cheating?
No.
I think if you were DMing, messaging, paying.
Listen, in
life. By the way, I think OnlyFans, this was the other thing.
Yeah.
Apparently, he had looked at OnlyFans, which is he did not subscribe, by the way. He had looked at the OnlyFans website of some person.
Right.
And he had not subscribed. Is that cheating? I think if he had subscribed and if he had paid for it, yeah, I think that's cheating.
Yeah, look, I think the general rule of thumb, whether we're talking social media or just real world, like face-to-face, window shop, but don't buy. Window shop, but don't interact. You can't, and this is one of my pet peeves, like in our society, in our country. So I can't look, right? Like I can't admire without someone getting upset. But ladies can look and ladies can admire, and it's no problem.
Yes.
And that's just what our society is. So the question, and this is what I would love people to answer in the comments, the question simply is, do you allow your spouse to look through your phone at any time? If so, do they look through it a lot? Because I think just the concept that, like with my girlfriend, I don't have to hide my phone. She doesn't have to hide her phone. It's a non-starter because hey, yeah, you want to look through my phone? Here you go. Like,
but
it's
the
not a
point
thing.
is, if you're looking through your spouse's phone, there's a larger issue.
Yes.
There is a larger issue.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
That's the reality of it.
So you better check yourself.
You can't be looking through your phone. And I think if you're going to search your husband or boyfriend, girlfriend, wife's
Your
phone,
significant other's phone.
you need to go to them and say, hey, I'd like to look through your phone. Because this guy had so little to hide, he did not have a password on his phone.
Yeah.
His phone was unlocked.
Yeah,
Like-
I don't think that because I follow women who show off on Instagram that's me cheating. I'm not talking to them.
It's not.
I'm not commenting or liking.
Yeah, if you're DMing, if you are messaging, now you've gone a step too far.
Now you're causing problems.
I think it is. We have so many problems with sex in this country. It is only natural to think about women and men sexually. I don't think there's any way around it. And this is not different than, hey, wow, look at that hot guy with a six-pack and pecs and buys and tries, slamming an axe into that log.
Yeah.
Come on.
We know why you're watching that.
Right? Like, and I don't have a problem with that. I really don't. If you're thinking about somebody else while we're having sex, okay, I don't love that, but I don't necessarily have a problem with that. It's human nature. What changes is when you message them, contact them. Hey, we're just friends going out to dinner.
See, I'm not cool with that.
But you're not just friends.
Yeah.
You're not. And this is the age-old adage that men and women cannot be platonic. There's you cannot, because affairs, you didn't have an affair because you were banging this chick.
Yeah.
You had an affair because you gave your heart to somebody else.
Yeah, you had an affair of the heart. Yeah.
It's never the physical. So this woman, I think, is radical. But I will say this. As men, we need to be very careful on policing ourselves in the actions we take. I look at this guy in England, this essentially a senator, an MP, who resigned because he admitted he had watched porn multiple times on the floor of the government floor while they were in session.
What's
essentially.
an erection?
You know, like, we have to be very careful because you open the door that much.
Yeah.
And there's no closing it.
Yeah.
And I only point you to the incidents where we know about cheating on your wife that's destroyed men, pornography destroying men. Like, I'm telling you now, there is a very thin line. There is a very thin line. And if you are hiding your phone from your wife, or if you are hiding your phone from your husband, there's a reason.
Yeah.
There's a reason for that.
Yeah.
And usually it's because you're not being honest.
Yeah.
It is because you are not being honest.
Yep.
To me, that's almost always the marker.
And it's, I mean, yeah, I think I think this is something that's very straightforward. And I think that, I mean, what are people saying? Are people saying anything?
Oh, I'm sure they are. Let's see. Fat Jesus says, no. Women who follow those men to learn to chop wood. It's a tutorial. I agree. It's just a tutorial. Go woke.
One, marry one, kill one.
Yeah,
Go.
exactly. Well, let's see. Firefighters, lumberjacks, and accountants. Well, kill the accountant, bang the lumberjack, and marry. Like, we know what you're doing.
Come on.
Fat Jesus says, serial philanderer and pervert. Aren't we all? I don't know about
Essentially.
that. Greg Hawkins says, LMAO. She's upset because he follows hot women on social media. She sounds like a total nightmare. He dodged a bullet. That's what I'm saying. Like, here's my question. If you are worried about, sexual things making you a sinner,
Mm-hmm.
do you have a productive sex life in the bedroom with your husband? My guess is you don't. My guess is, this is the other thing I say a lot. Men and women, I think there is a lot of people who are unhappy sexually in their marriage, and it leads to action.
Mm-hmm.
And not good action. I'm telling you, it is what it is. And Garcia says, what a perfect time to jump back in. Nudity and cleavage. I love it. Brett Robbins says, she's straight saying TikTok is the devil's work. Well, it probably is.
It kind of is. I mean, you know.
Arich Tavera says, I understand men looking at women instinctively. It's natural, especially sexy and a lot of skin. This is every day. I also understand men forget that them literally in 5 minutes tops.
Yeah, it's an in-the-moment thing.
It is.
I think that's a fair
It
point.
is.
That's a very fair point.
Cheating would apply when it becomes physical, in my opinion, and Garcia says, no.
No, I don't think so, friend. Don't think so.
No, cheating on your spouse, the last part of cheating is the physical.
Yeah.
It is when you know that you are having an affair when you are doing something that you won't tell your spouse about. You are having an affair. Whether that's talking to somebody, whether that's, hey, are you hugging your female coworker? Would that make your wife uncomfortable? Are
And
you
that's
hugging
the
your
thing.
male
See,
coworker?
I
Would that
think
make your
that's-
husband uncomfortable?
Yeah, that's a great way to phrase it. Like, what I'm doing, is that okay with my spouse? Like, would my spouse be okay with it if they walked in the room and saw me doing it? Or would they be okay with it if they saw me texting with this person or DMing with that person or whatever the case may be? Because, to counteract, what was it on Garcia's point? I think, we so often look at cheating as like, oh, well, cheating is just human to human. And it's not, right? Like
is
if you're somebody who's a heavy consumer of like pornography, let's say,
You're cheating
you're
on your wife.
cheating on your wife or your husband. It's just that simple. So that's why I say your point, the way you said it, hey, the physical is the last portion. That's so true. Like the heart and the emotional side of it is the beginning.
Because betrayal isn't over the sex. Betrayal is that you've lost the trust of that person.
Yeah.
And you never get it back.
Yeah.
You just don't. Jeremy Bolton says she sounds like the wife that goes to the gym wearing a thong and see-through top and then gets mad at men for looking at her at the gym. Well,
see it all the time at Vaza, bro.
Man.
Oh, don't
Here
start.
come the sex bots.
Douche canoes.
Here come the sex bots. See, we start talking about this stuff and...
Damn, how many was it this time? Like 5?
5 or 6 at least.
Damn.
Yeah, well, that's a lot. Erich Tavera says, problem with us women is we think men think the same way. It's just different. I still remember the hot guy I saw a few weeks ago. I doubt my husband remembered the girl he saw in the McDonald's earlier. We're very transient.
Yeah.
We're very transient.
It's in the moment.
Because honestly, I think pornography and sex for men, there's so much more content out there.
Well, look.
Just the cut of a blouse gets guys going, like cleavage.
Listen, from the beginning of our life, let's just use high school as an example, just an arbitrary example. Women, girls in high school can get laid whenever they want to.
Yes.
If a girl wanted to go to high school and get like 5 dudes, she could. But as dudes, that's not how it works. As dudes, we have to bring value to get value in return. We have to be like in high school. You got to be the star football player. You got to fill a role that a woman would want. And that's what I think is the difference. Women look at guys and they kind of, as she was saying, like look at guys and kind of remember that guy because of how he looks. Whereas dudes, we're not even looking at it from the standpoint of, oh man, this could actually happen. We're just like, oh yeah, she's a pretty good looking girl. Like we're just trying to enjoy the moment.
And Garcia says, dudes, hugs are not cheating, you prunes.
Yes. In a way, it can be.
It depends.
Depends.
It depends. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
You only hug certain coworkers.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about. Greg Hawkins says, nice. The spam bot's giving us enlightened conversation as usual. Exactly. Porn is cheating now. I'm going to hell, bruh. Well, it's cheating if you're the guy that's watching porn behind your wife's back. I don't see how it's not. You are actively engaging in sex with other people. You are pleasuring yourself and fantasizing about other women.
Yeah.
And that to me is where it goes too far.
And then you're going to put those expectations on your person.
I just think it
is
goes too
messed up.
far. Josh Leverett says, and Garcia called you guys dried plums in your face. He did. I know.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
Wow, man. I'm really offended,
Greg says, I don't
Sorry
think
you're
porn is
offended by
cheating
that.
if your partner knows and consents to it. Communication solves like
I agree.
99% of these gray areas. Yes, it does.
I agree.
Porn is cheating by yourself. Porn is cheating yourself. Yeah, well, could be.
Well, that's true.
If porn is cheating, then sex toys are too. Well, it depends. Does your wife
yeah.
tell you that she uses a sex toy?
It's all, to Greg's point, it is all about the communication. And again, it comes down to deceiving your significant other. So whether we're talking about, it's not the item. So it's not, hey, you hugged that person, or hey, you got off to pornography. It's hey, did you hug that person in a way that was that would not be okay with your spouse? Are you hugging that person because you like the way it feels? Or are you just hugging them because that's sort of like like over the weekend, me and my girlfriend went to her friend's place, who are married and have a kid and own a home on the East Bench here in Salt Lake. And yeah, like I hugged her friend's wife and shook his hand and like just common stuff. Like that's not cheating.
Yeah.
But it's like if you go to the office behind your wife's back or your husband's back and you're interacting with someone, that's cheating. I mean, it is all contextual.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And Garcia says, OMFG, Monty, you're out of control. I will simply wrap this up.
Okay. Come on.
That was awesome. I'll put an end to this conversation by saying if you are hiding things from your spouse, you're cheating on them.
Agreed.
Don't get me started on things other than sex or other people that is cheating.
Y'all want to play.
Like, are you cheating on your spouse when you spend money they don't know about, or when you hide your spending?
No, you're not cheating. You're just lying. Like,
there you go. Oh, and FYI, Jake Iguodala was at Arizona in 2001. Okay. He's old. Trust me, my hugs are cheating, Fat Jesus says. I agree. Play the music because we got to go. Yeah, I think it is. That's an interesting question. We'll keep talking about this. I love talking about relationships. I love when you guys hit the like button. Please give us a thumbs up. Appreciate you guys very much. Jeremy Bolton says, my wife loves the Cardinals, and being a Cubs fan, she's dead to me and cheating on me. Very true. I don't know how you
Does she like Headband Caruso too?
I don't know. And Garcia says, let's settle this right now.
Yeah, you know?
There you go. All right. Until tomorrow, say goodbye, Jake.
Goodbye, Jake.